And it's no secret that the AI can change the world to the better. What do you think? How global can be this change? We want you to participate in a small survey. Please scan another QR code on the screen and answer the question. Just one question. Can AI create its own AI? Are you sure about that? If you're sure, option one. Not sure. The second answer, if you want to consult your AI solution, then there is a third option for you. And actually, the forecast is encouraging and concerning at the same time. The majority still select the first option, yet there are some people who need to consult with their own AI solutions that they use. It's interesting whether your inner voice can be AI generated. Interesting. Right. The absolute majority believes in the bright future. Actually, I'm one of them, because I think that, yeah, 160 people voted. 200, right? You are very quick to vote, and that is great. Yeah, that's it. I think that the figure won't change that much. The first option won. Is it good or not? Well, we'll need to understand that, to work that out, and we have the entire day ahead of us. And today we're going to talk about the role of AI for sustainable development in ESG. The CEO and founder of AI Review, Janet Sawari. AI strategy for ESG. A round of applause for you, and you are very welcome.
Please welcome on the stage.
Good morning. My name is Janet Sawari, and I'm going to be talking about AI strategies for ESG excellence. So in my day-to-day, I'm a developer, I'm a researcher, an innovator, and I'm building something really interesting in South Africa, and that's an AI innovation research lab for edge computing devices. And so today, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about ESG? Part of what I believe in my personal nexus is looking forward ethics, inclusivity, and impact-driven innovation. And so the topic on ESG and how we can aim for an excellent or a more compliant strategy for excellence, I think for me is something worth talking about. And so my first question is, how can we ensure the development and deployment of AI technologies to align with the ESG criteria? Ponder on it and think about it for a bit. But today I'll be asking 3 questions, and the second one is, how can we build AI that can accelerate ESG goals and global strategies? I believe the way we are starting to build AI is at a much more accelerated pace than ever before. And so it's worthwhile to consider the frameworks that we already have. Development and deployment of AI technologies align with ESG criteria is to look towards explainable AI, to look towards what are the key driving principles and features that help us to better shape and scope AI models for ESG criteria. So to those that know what AI is, I'm sure you do know that it's data-driven. But when we look at the data, do we understand how it drives the model, how it informs the model it develops? In most cases, as consumers, you don't. It's almost push in, push out, put data in and get data out or get a model out, but no one really stops to think the how, what, and when. And these are really important. So on the screen, you may see the little man, the user, and the task. With explainable AI, you can get to understand why a certain decision or a certain model came out. You can get to understand the why not, why it succeeded, even why it fails. This is very important. And so what does that mean for ESG criteria? If you're doing mass reporting at a large scale, maybe for the industrial sector, which is where I also operate in for all my models, is you want to understand all the data that you're collecting. Why is it turning out to drive a model a certain way, and why is it scoring a certain way? And imagine in this futuristic space where we're going, where we have an accelerated pace of driving innovation and scoping different ESG criteria for different markets, what does that then mean in terms of speed? The why is the emphasis here. And so basically, a quasi-developer, I can tell you there's very little to no compliance in an emerging market like South Africa, where I come from. Day in and day out, I see different developers working on different types of code, but there's no regulatory body that is there to really take a look at what are you developing and how you're developing it, and how does that impact the outcome, the model, the IP, the innovation that you put out into the market that people then use. The whole point between ESG is the framework. The conversation started because people wanted to look towards ethics-based investment. So I look at ESG from a policy perspective, practice, and the metrics that come out. So, okay, let's break it down. You have your ESG framework that has your policy, your practice, and your metrics, and you need to integrate it once you build your model, and then you need to report constantly. Once again, back to what I mentioned earlier. If you have multiple loads of data going in and going out, how do you do that reporting aspect and the constant integration aspect? It's not a once-off process, right? It's a cycle. You're constantly doing it on a day-to-day, to month, to annual basis. What AI is able to do is it is able to automate that process that is often human-driven, redundant, and manual. So you have your policy, your practice, and your metrics. So this is quite interesting. I thought this is something that might help to get people to understand a little bit more about how there's disparity in the different types of ESG policies and frameworks. If you're able to look at the GIRs, about 91%, whereas the CDSB is at 21% in terms of the standard and the guide they use for the stock exchange. I am from an emerging market, so that means things are changing all the time. This is a disparity within markets that are much more sophisticated and well organized, that have infrastructure. So where I come from, the disparities between what Kenya's ESG policy looks like and what South Africa's ESG policy looks like, it's not a 91 to 21 gap. Sometimes it's 0 to 100 or 0 to none because of lack of infrastructure. So what does that then mean when we talk about AI or when we talk about technology being able to drive the process of scoring your ESG frameworks? Is it a risk? Is it an opportunity? Well, I believe most of us in here are businessmen and women. It's an opportunity. I lived in China for about 7 years, and we actually did not have the word risk or challenge in our vocabulary with my professors. It was always opportunity, opportunity. Second question I want to talk about today is how we can build AI that can accelerate ESG goals and global strategies. ESG acceleration, for me, has a lot to do with the tech itself and not the human component. So within the AI space, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of natural language models, computer vision, but what more foundational models and multimodal models and what they're able to enable us to do. So this is what I'm going to address in the form of this graph in this part of my presentation. So what I have here is basically an ESG data and analytics graph that is broken down into 4 different parts of extracting the model, enrichment of the module, transformation of the module, and the delivery, or what we would consider the integration of the model, as in my previous slides. And the reason I put this up here is to give you a visual guide or visual framework of what exactly I'm alluding to or talking about. So being able to consider a framework that matches the actual technology or how you build your model is actually really important. Having a funnel that can do all 4 steps of analyzing your ESG criteria instead of doing it in a manual human-driven way. And having the 2 main components, which is your enrichment and transformation of your data, being where the AI is actually happening, can be game-changing. So far, so good in the market. I have identified 4 key players that already have integrated this model with one key UK-based company called Strove AI, and they have a similar platform that enables concept recognition, AI recognition, human criterion curation using a cloud platform, as well as your natural language processing, mapping, and speech-to-text-based engines. And finally, the trends, maybe my favorite part of the conversation. How can we look at the market trends and key observations to inform ESG innovation? So part of what I used to do in my former life as a lecturer at Jiao Tong University is to inform innovation for the MBA students. So I'll find this part interesting quite as well. So some of the tools that I analyzed within this graph that I'm about to share are some of the key players within the market that I think you should track and look at after this presentation. So if you look to the graph, you'll see ones that I've highlighted in green. And I think those are much more interesting than some of the general players who are doing very redundant and manual work, where you're basically having a model that's not really doing much, but just extracting data from the web and then using that to score different companies and etc. for environmental analytics, with very little to social analytics or the governance aspect. So moving on from the first to the fourth, there's your investment-based, automation-based, or data management-based, sustainability or the comparative-based type of models, and then the last is sentiment and context. My personal favorite is Clarity AI, which has one of the largest databases, with about 30,000 companies across 200 countries. Stonewall specifically is an interesting statistic that 40% of the real estate industry informs more than 36% of global CO2 emissions, and the general size of the market itself is sitting at about 6 trillion and yet to be 3.8 trillion by 2022. So that's quite a huge number as well. So that's the size of the market they're addressing with their AI, with this multimodal-based type of technology that I keep advocating today. And so, Janet, what else can you share with us that is quite interesting that you've actually dug your hands into? That's what I'm about to share. So if you're allowed to engage, please take a look at a short video as I talk about my vision, my team's vision, and what we're working on within an emerging market to help potentially revolutionize how we do compliance-based reporting using AI, foundational models, and a multimodal approach as to how we're building our model. So they should be volume. Get you thinking about what else I have up my sleeve. And what it basically is a platform that I designed and I'm very proud of called XVision Illuminate. And what we're doing is using this platform that transforms your CCTV footage at scale into 3 key intelligent insights using AI. Also a multimodal model built on a foundational model. And what we're doing is using it for compliance insights, safety insights, and most importantly, your operational insights. In South Africa, we're called almost the big brother or the creepy guys, because we're basically taking surveillance at scale and using it to automate your reporting for industrial sites. So as you saw from the short clip, we gave you visuals of industrial spaces. Maybe a material classification model can be applied to your steel manufacturing, which is something we work on. You can be able to also apply the same type of model to inspect your assets. Maybe you have a wind farm, and you can be able to also use the same platform to maybe do inspection for your manufacturing facility and track safety. So I believe this is the future. This is how we can be able to automate redundant-based tasks and be able to integrate automation that AI provides and reduce bias that often comes with human-based operations. So we want to make workspaces safer, much more efficient, and much more compliant. And this is where the ESG part comes in. Being able to enable or integrate your KPIs with your team into the platform and track those specifically. One of the biggest challenges I've seen in the ESG space is when you have lots and lots of data, maybe you have a data set with, I don't know, 1,000 different data points, but you're only using 20 or 30% of it because most is getting lost in either cleaning, most of it is not relevant as well to what you need to track, and then eventually you don't have anything that is really worth your while, and anything that you can really be able to apply to your business or to do any real contingent-based investment processes. So one of my favorite things about XVision and what we're doing is being able to expand or extend the opportunity from your CCTV footage into other different types of cameras or devices. So being able to think around a body cam, a drone, a phone camera, a laptop camera, and explore different ways that you can be able to do ESG-based scoring for compliance using these type of different devices and extract the data from those sources, I think is also quite interesting to consider for the future. And finally, I think I'll be opening up the floor to any questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Let me check some questions. Yeah, of course, many questions, but we have only, as usual, time for few. Which part about using AI technologies is, in your opinion, the most challenging?
I think it's the compliance side. The more we advance towards the future, the more we iterate and build quickly, like I mentioned in my presentation, the more we need to consider different policies. And the way I view policy and ethics is it's subjective. So I believe we all have different opinions around what's right and what's wrong. So I believe that's the most challenging part, because as a technologist, I want to advance the technology. I don't care about other factors, you know, but if you're not a technologist, maybe you're an investment banker or you're a politician, your views are very different. So that you know, Sam Altman's said before that the technology can help tell us how to build it in a more sustainable way. And I think we're going towards that type of future, and I believe it's possible. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.